You're listening to the Pigskin Cafe, a podcast covering the wild world of college football. On tap for today are hot takes, controversy, and analysis on your favorite team. Here's your host, Hampton Sipper, in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back in to the Pigskin Cafe. My name is Hampton Sipper, and joining me again tonight is Mr. Graham Haney. Chase is out and about, being a little social butterfly, and then Mr. Logan Fairby, who was our wonderful guest last week, couldn't join us again tonight. So it's just the two of us. We couldn't make it if we tried. Just the two of us, baby. We're going to be previewing Week 8 games, which is going to be a ton of fun because we've got a good game at every slot of the day. We're going to be talking about Penn State, Ohio State. We're going to be talking about Duke, FSU, Ole Miss, Auburn, Utah, USC, and the third Saturday in October, Alabama and Tennessee. But before we dive into that, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. Follow us on Spotify and leave us a like, leave us a comment, and hit that notification bell. Be sure to follow us on social media as well so you can be up to date when new shows drop and so you can engage in the conversation we have going on over here at the Pigskin Cafe. Now, Graham, first game we're going to talk about today, Penn State, Ohio State. What a matchup. Why this game is 11 o'clock ticks me off. I hate big noon kickoff, even though I love Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt and Jenny Dell. But going to be a very fun game, really a big game in the Big Ten. Who do you got in this one, man? Penn State has been kind of a machine to start the year. They haven't really been tested by anyone. They haven't played an opponent with much of a pulse. Ohio State has had some close calls. They don't look like the typical Ohio State team with a high-flying offense. Their defense has been the one carrying them the majority of the year so far. So how do you see this one shaking out, man?
Yeah, I believe this game is in Columbus.
Correct.
If I'm just simply for the fact of remembering last year, they always hype up this game. And it was in Happy Valley last year. Man, Hampton, I've been high on Penn State all year. It has been several years in a row where the Big Ten has been Ohio State or Michigan. I think that this year, now that Penn State has an elite quarterback, this might be Penn State's year. I am a little bit concerned in the fact they're going to Columbus to play this game simply for the fact that Ohio State has a great fan base and a great stadium in the Horseshoe. But I don't really think this game comes down to how well Penn State performs, but how poorly does Ohio State perform? In the sense of, we talked about it when Ohio State played Notre Dame. Does Kyle McCord play good football or elite football, or does he play bad football? If he plays bad football, Penn State will win this game. If he plays good football, Ohio State has a chance. If he plays great football, this is Ohio State's game. But when you're looking at quarterback-to-quarterback matchup, I'm going Penn State. I think that for years it has been the two top dogs, and it is time for James Franklin to get him a piece of that Big Ten trophy.
Graham, I just want you to think of this. Penn State, Ohio State is always a game that's circled. It's always a game that has big college football playoff implications, but also Big Ten implications. How many times have we said going into this matchup that Penn State has a better quarterback? Never.
Yeah.
Never. And that is the difference this year. You touched on it. Drew Aller is an elite dude. He has all the tools that you want. And this has to be Penn State's year.
Yep.
I'm with you. They're going to be good next year because he's going to be another year in the system. And a lot of that class that they had, kind of like we talked about with Jimbo, that class from a couple years ago, they'll all be juniors. But I think their time is now. I think Ohio State while a very solid team, and like I said, their defense has been really impressive to begin the year, especially the improvement from last year to this. But I just got a feeling that James Franklin, this is his time. Penn State is going to win in Columbus, and I may be wrong, not to get ahead of myself, but with Ohio State's troubles versus Michigan the past few years and the way Michigan's looking right now, I think that's going to be the first of two losses for the Buckeyes. Give me Penn State in this one. Can't wait to watch this one unfold on Saturday. Going to be a great way to start our college football morning. Let's transition to a night game. We've got Duke versus Florida State. This one is really interesting because Duke has been kind of one of the darlings of this year. Start off with a big win against Clemson, had Notre Dame down to the wire, and they go into Florida State with still a lot in front of them. I mean, as far as ACC wise and in the playoff picture. The big question is Riley Leonard going to play? If Riley Leonard does not play, they have no shot. If he does play, I think they can make things interesting because I think this Florida State team, while very talented and very good, they have not looked they have not looked as impressive as they did against that LSU team in week one. And even then, there were some things in that game that kind of alarmed me, especially from their secondary. And that has been a trend that has continued throughout this year. So I'll go ahead and pick this one and just make it quick. I think Florida State wins this game at home. I think they're a more talented team. And I think even if Riley Leonard does play, he's not going to be 100%, and he's going to be a little rusty. But I really do hope he plays because I think this could be a very interesting game if he does because I really like their defense. Mike Elko, I mean, Graham, you and I both have said he's one of the best pure X's and O's coaches in college football. And as long as he's not playing prevent on 4th and 16, sorry. But I really like Duke to keep it competitive. Riley Leonard plays. If not, give me Florida State.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Florida State wins this one. Florida State's problem ever since the LSU game has been a struggle of playing to the opponent's skill level. I think when you look back at several games this year, Boston College in particular, honestly, who was it? You take Virginia out of the equation. Florida State's really, if you take Virginia and LSU out of the equation, Florida State's really done a poor job. And since they keep playing to their opponent's skill level, you're letting Boston College hang around. You're letting Syracuse hang around. I guess I don't even know if they played Virginia yet. Anyway,
They played Virginia Tech.
Virginia Tech. Okay. So, anyway, I think that's been Florida State's problem so far. It's just just playing to the opponent's skill level. I think if Florida State goes into this one and thinks that Duke's skill level is not high, they could lose because Duke has enough talent outside of Riley Leonard to win this game, in that simple fact. But Florida State has more talent. I think we both agree on that. Florida State has more dogs. I think Duke's best chance is with Riley Leonard playing quarterback, but Duke is not there just yet, talent-wise. Give me Florida State. I think this will be one of those games that's probably close until halftime, and then I could see Florida State sort of taking off in the second half once Duke has kind of thrown all their punches, played all their cards, and then Florida State's able to take off at the end.
I'm right there with you, Graham. Let's keep on rolling. We'll go through these next two really, really quickly before we kind of deep dive into the third Saturday in October. That is really the fourth Saturday in October. Actually, no, it's not. It is the third Saturday in October. Whoopsie. We'll keep on going. We got Ole Miss traveling to Auburn, coming off a bye week, and after an absolute, kicking in Baton Rouge. It was Tiger on Tiger crime, and LSU came out on top. I believe the final score was 48-18. Auburn's offense, I think somehow may be worse than last year.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's crazy to say, but at least last year they had Tank Bigsby. Now, running back isn't their issue, but my gracious alive, it's tough watching them play offense. Defense got absolutely shredded by LSU, who has probably the top 5 offense in the country, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
Give me Ole Miss to win this game. I know there might be some Hugh Freeze revenge factor with Ole Miss. I just simply think Ole Miss is too talented. They're going to be even healthier coming off the spy. Jackson Dart was a little banged up. Judkins has been banged up. Harris has been banged up. I think they're going to be healthier. I think they go in and they get the job done. Graham, you disagree?
I don't think so. I think I'm with you. I just don't really see a way that Auburn wins this one, just in the simple fact of Ole Miss has had a week of preparation. Auburn is coming off a true beatdown of mass proportions. I think the only way that Auburn has a chance this game is if it's obviously if it's low scoring and a defensive battle, and I just don't see it being that with a week of preparation and with enough film to expose Auburn's defense. I think the Lane Kiffin's going to have a good game plan. I don't think it's going to be a blowout because Auburn playing at home is always a different factor.
Yep.
They do play different at home than on the road. But give me Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss takes care of business in this one. I'd probably say by 14 to 17 points. I think it's one of those scores that's like, oh, it is a 2-3 score game, but it kind of felt closer than that.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't take advantage of it.
I think I go about 10 to 14. I'm kind of right there with you on this one. We'll go real quick. I'm not even going to break this game down. Utah versus USC. I've got USC winning this one. Who do you got, Graham?
USC has to respond. I think that's simply what it comes down to, and they cannot play as bad as they did last weekend. But give me USC. I think we talked about it a little bit in the last podcast. Utah having a carousel at quarterback is just kind of concerning. And a few weeks ago they played Oregon State on the road and really just got manhandled the entire game. Ended up scoring a touchdown late. I think the USC rights the wrongs that they did last weekend, and this one could get ugly. I'm going with USC.
Okay, one word answer on this one. I did not prep you, but we talked about it in the last pod. South Carolina traveling to Mizzou. Does South Carolina spring the upset? No. Got Mizzou. I've got Mizzou too. I think they continue to ride that high into their bye, rhyming accidentally before they take on Georgia, which is going to be that weekend in SEC football. You got that. You got Bama LSU. Got a few other marquee matchups. Cannot wait to watch that unfold. Now let's deep dive into Alabama, Tennessee. And I'm going to kind of give a little bit of my breakdown of this game. And then I'll kind of kick it to you, and then we'll get on out of here, Graham. I think we are going to keep our promise this time. This is going to be a little shorter episode for us. But, man, I was in attendance at the Alabama game this weekend and started off slow like they have all year. And they got into a little bit of a rhythm. Hit a couple deep balls. Jalen Milroe, I believe, started the game 5 of 7 for like 200-something yards. And eventually he was like 7 of 9, I think, at one point. And things were looking good. I mean, he was in a little bit of a rhythm. The running game got going a little bit. I think running backs carried the ball 29 times for 206 yards, which is the best output this year by far. So I think that's something to build upon. Defense did what they do. They shut down Arkansas. They were like a boa constrictor, just squeezing the life out of them after some early success. But then the second half happened, man, and Jalen Milroe was flat out awful. And I'm not trying to be ugly, he was not good in the second half. And missed me with, Tommy Reese didn't call plays for him. Tommy Reese can't throw the ball for him when there's guys running wide open across the middle that if he hits in stride, it's a touchdown. Tommy Reese can't make him throw an accurate ball to Isaiah Bond on a designed rollout, which y'all been calling for him to move the pocket for him. He does, and he floats it 5 yards over his head. Tommy Reese can't control that, okay? And the issue with Jalen Milroe, it's feast or famine offense, man. It is, and I know I've said it before, but it is the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. You have the beautiful deep balls, but you don't have a short passing game, and you definitely don't have an intermediate passing game because he's simply – and I've heard people say, when he hits, a couple intermediate, oh, well, I was told he can't do that. He can't do it consistently, and that's the problem. And when he can't do it consistently, that makes the offense extremely inefficient, leads to a lot of 3-and-outs, and leads to your defense being on the field entirely too long, which I think factored into why Arkansas found a little bit of life in the second half, is because after the first drive on offense, they continually went 3-and-out, 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 or the first couple drives on offense. And then the defense had a boneheaded penalty that extended a drive, and then KJ Jefferson made an incredible play with Terry and Arnold, throwing him off, and they made a run. They made a run, got it within a 3-point game, and I can't extrapolate everything from Arkansas to this Tennessee game. I was expecting a little bit of a flat performance, especially with the way Saban kind of commented about how they practiced this past week and all. But the offensive issues, man, are something that we've seen all year long. And while Milroe has shown improvement, it is still not consistent. It is a spark or a play here and there, and you just can't, like, if a football fan, if that works for you, if that's what you want in a quarterback, if you want your quarterback to be TikTok famous and can make the highlights to show up on there, fine. I want a quarterback that's efficient. I want a quarterback that moves the chains, that keeps the offense on schedule, and that looks like it's a coherent machine. I mean, right now, Alabama's offense is throw that you-know-what deep. I mean, that is what it is. It's that, and then a few runs with the running backs. And I know the offensive line is much maligned, and they're not a great unit. They're not. I don't know who was selling snake oil this whole offseason in Tuscaloosa, telling everybody they could hear like it was, they were Moses on the mountain with the 10 Commandments shouting for the Israelites to hear that this offensive line was going to be one of the best we've ever had. It's not, especially as a pass blocking unit. Mm-mm. Left tackle continually gets beat. A lot of that has to do with mental errors and him not fanning out when he's supposed to, taking the wrong guy. A lot of it's pre-snap stuff. I get that. But you want to hear a stat, Graham, that just blew my mind?
Blow my mind.
Do you know who has the most average time to throw in the SEC on passing plays?
Don't tell me it's Jalen Milroe.
It is Jalen Milroe at 3.4 seconds. 3.4. That's plenty of freaking time. So what does that tell you? That does not excuse the offensive line for getting beat at times. That does not excuse them for sometimes allowing pressure to get in on him. But what it does show is that he does not get rid of the ball in a timely manner. He holds on to it too long a lot of the time, and he creates a lot of those negative plays and sacks. I've been saying it all year, but that number backs it up more than me anecdotally just speaking it over and over and over again. And the point is, they play Tennessee this week, and I know that's what, the game we're talking about, but I feel like the Arkansas game informs the Tennessee game in a lot of ways. And this Tennessee pass rush is really good. I believe they are like second in the country in sacks, I saw. Wow. They blitz a lot, which Alabama has not handled the blitz well at all this year, other than maybe the second half against A&M, because Tommy Rees made some really good adjustments to get the ball out quick. But I think the problem is, too, Arkansas, in that first half, they had a couple coverage busts that made it not an easy throw, but like an easy read for Milroe. Mm-hmm. He can go through progressions, but it's not consistent. And so what did Arkansas do in the second half? Alabama started running the ball a little bit more. Well, then they started kind of bringing another man down and take that away. But they also they took away the deep ball. They took away the deep ball. They gave us some intermediate stuff, and he didn't make them pay. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure Tennessee is going to employ a similar game plan. I don't think their secondary is very good. I think their rush offense or rush defense isn't fantastic. So maybe Alabama can make a little hay on the ground, especially after, I thought they had a pretty good performance on the ground with their running backs. I love seeing Jam Miller and Justice Haynes get some carries. Been calling for that all year. And I think that needs to be more part of the offense going forward. So when Alabama has the ball, establishing a running game is going to be key, but Milroe is going to have to be better than he was in that second half against Arkansas. No, he didn't turn the ball over, but you've got to hit the gimmies, man. You cannot hit home runs and then, or as Jimmy Stein put it, and I thought this was well, you can't hit the deep threes but miss layups. You just can't. And you can't, it's not sustainable for an offensive unit that has enough difficulties already. So I'm going to be interested watching that. Defensively, I think Alabama is going to have a difficult time stopping Tennessee's run, mainly due to the wide splits that Tennessee employs, which makes you commit less people to the box because your corners are out on islands and everything's less compact in there, which makes it more difficult to defend the run. But I think they're going to be able to do it well enough. Joe Milton has not been great this year. Now, I think in a lot of ways, I think Milroe is a better player than Joe Milton, but I also think they're kind of similar in their inefficiencies, which leads to a more difficult time offensively. Obviously, I do think Milroe is better. Don't kill me, everybody. He is better. But I think Alabama is going to be able to do enough to stop their run. And then I trust their corners on islands against these Tennessee receivers. I think they'll be able to pressure Joe Milton pretty well. And I think they learned a lot from last year. I think this is a game they've had circled. And ultimately, I think Alabama wins. I think it's going to be a close game because Tennessee is a solid team. And I just don't think with this Alabama team this year, you can expect for them to blow anybody out. They've got to win a certain type of way, especially with the play they're getting at the quarterback position right now. And that is not me. That's not me hating. That's just being factual. And last point, Graham, before I kick it to you, if I hear one more person say, well, we're not calling plays for him to run and we're not calling plays for him to use his legs and we just drew it into him. You stay in the pocket. You stay in the pocket. He is unwilling to run. I've said it multiple times. I have good information on this that he is unwilling to run. He views himself as a pocket passer, which I don't understand why you don't use the gifts that the good Lord has given you, but that is where we are. And he honestly, he's not really a great runner. I know all these people saying, oh, he'd be great at read option quarterback. What has he shown? He's not elusive. He's good straight line speed. But I mean, it's not going to be a part of the offense. Stop yapping about it. As I mentioned on the pod a couple weeks ago, Ty Simpson in garbage time has pulled the ball more read options and ran more effectively than Jalen Milroe has, beside maybe one or two long runs. I digress. Got Alabama in a close one. Going to be fun. Really interested more so to see how the Alabama defense kind of tries to stymie this Tennessee rushing attack and kind of keep them. They can limit their first down runs to 2 or 3 yards and keep them off schedule. I think it'll be a successful day for the Tide. Graham, what say you, man?
Yeah, I want to just go back to the Joe Milton and the Joe Milton discussion and
Jalen Milroe
comparison. Yeah, I don't know why it was the two JM names that were just getting to me. This is just, just to sum that up, what you're talking about. Jalen Milroe and Joe Milton are video game players' best friend. They would love them to play NCAA 14 Dynasty mode with Joe Milton or with Jalen Milroe. But they are offensive coordinators' worst nightmare. They're so inconsistent that you honestly second guess calling plays, knowing that Jalen Milroe cannot hit that middle crosser in clutch time. You know that Joe Milton has been inaccurate, with the ball when he hasn't been able to throw it 50 yards. I think when you look at it, offensive coordinators, they want consistency. Give me the guy that's going to throw that 15-yard ball every single time. over the guy that can throw it 80 yards but can't hit that 15-yard one once out of every 3 times. I think that when you look at it, Jalen Milroe is perplexing that he can hit these deep balls with perfect accuracy, but he always throws these middle crossers 5 yards too high. And so it's just insane that he can't hit a few of those. No quarterback's going to be perfect. There's going to be times where everybody misses throws. There's going to be times when receivers have opportunities,
Yep.
make catches, don't make plays. But he has consistently showed that whenever he has an open man, a wide open man deep, he hits it every time. But if there's a middle crosser, by all means, throw it 30 yards deeper than he is. So I think that's concerning. I think that this Arkansas game was at least a little bit of a test for Alabama's defense in the sense of we knew we had to have the game on our backs because we could not trust the offense to execute and to punch in points in the second half. I think that will come in key against Tennessee. But Hampton, like you said, I think it's going to be really, really close. Tennessee, they do have a scheme that is difficult to play against in the simple fact of they want to run the ball this year, but they're going to put 4 guys out as far as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to try that 7-on-7 matchup, that 7-on-6 matchup, and see and just make you prove that you can stop it consistently. And so it's a tough scheme to match up with. However, I do think Alabama at least has experience last year of knowing how that game is going to work out. In the simple fact of Alabama had several awful coverages last year. I think this year they're bound to break some coverages. They're bound to have some bad plays, but I think consistently Alabama's not going to have the same mistakes over and over again like they did last time, which Tennessee was able to take advantage of. I think this Alabama defense can adapt. This Alabama defense can stymie this Tennessee rush offense eventually. I think this is one of those games that is going to come down to the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. And is Alabama going to be able to put the ball in the end zone to seal the deal, or will Tennessee be able to respond if Alabama turns the ball over? I've got Alabama winning by 6 points. I think it's probably a touchdown game, 2 field goal game. And I think that Alabama might have to push it in at the end and seal the deal. I think that's kind of my prediction for the game. It's going to be a fun one, though. I think that Alabama has a little bit of revenge to play this year. It's been so long since Tennessee beat Alabama. They finally did last year. I hope that the players on this team understand the ramifications of that, and that Alabama fans are honestly just kind of shocked and very surprised. And you beat a team 16 years in a row, and they finally win one. It's like I didn't know that was possible.
Mm-hmm.
So I got Alabama winning a close one.
I like it, Graham. And last point, thought you touched on it great. I think one of the big difference. There's many differences between Kevin Steele and Pete Golding. I think one of the main ones is the ability to adjust. It's like Alabama; they kind of see what you're doing after a drive or two, and then they adjust, and then you ain't getting anything the rest of the game. He's been great at halftime adjustments, and I think even if Tennessee has success early, I trust him to make a call, change a little bit of their philosophy defensively to get the job done, and like you said, limit that Tennessee attack. That is very different than last year's high potent aerial attack with Hendon Hooker, but they also could run the ball very well last year too. That's what I don't think they got enough credit for, but Hendon Hooker was just a different level from an efficiency standpoint. Going to be a fun one to watch on Saturday, 2:30, CBS, Uncle Brad, Uncle Gary, and we'll be back next Tuesday, to talk about everything that happens this weekend. We hope you all enjoyed the show. We hope you like, share, subscribe, and like I said, we'll be back next Tuesday recapping week 8 of college football. But until then, the Pigskin Cafe will be closed for now. So we'll see you next time, and chew on that.